Come on now, get down. Come here. Get on the way now. Alright, I'm going to start again. And the reason for this presentation is to bring some closure to a lot of the speculation surrounding, well, what you see on this little clipboard here. There's 9/11, there's ISIS, there's Fibonacci, there's Tyndall, and there's the number 153. And this is a very simple subject and involves no other understanding at all except how to count and read. And what's important about the last entry, Tyndall, it has everything to do with what you think you know about 911 and the present usage of the term ISIS or ISIS. Fibonacci is a name, and it has to do with a man named Leonardo Fibonacci, and another name, but they named him Fibonacci, and he lived in the 13th century. So he is given credit with having developed this idea of the Fibonacci sequence or series, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but when we get into that, you'll see how all of this does relate. So we'll just talk about Mr. Tyndall for a minute, and fortunately I have found him in a dictionary. It says here under Webster's that Tyndall lived between 1494 and 1536, roughly the same time as Henry VIII and Martin Luther. Interesting. So all three of these individuals have to do with the transformation of the Catholic Church into many other denominations, Lutheran and Protestant, among others. But Tyndall is important because if not for Mr. Tyndall and others like him, we would have never been able to get this, a Bible, in any language other than Latin. So, his punishment for translating and disseminating the Latin version of the original Greek scriptures, which became a Bible, to everyone. So he was executed. Now, that was definitely a very harsh punishment for a guy who just wanted people to be able to get past the ancient Judaic prohibition on anyone other than, say, Moses or Aaron from going anywhere near the sacred objects. And this is all in the Old Testament, where people have just dropped dead from going anywhere near the inner sanctum. So this is the important thing about Tyndall. He opened up the Bible to everyone, not just the clergy, which was also going through a split. But as everyone knows, shortly after all these gentlemen died, there was a mad rush to enslave the entire world. So it didn't really matter under which banner you claimed your authority. They all basically felt that it was their God-given place to rule the world, which is amazing because as we talk about 9/11, we're going to find out that the church and all its denominations have overlooked the most basic message, which was on its face impossible not to derive if you actually do read and understand these scriptures. Here is the Quran. Well, the Quran, and you call it the Holy Book of Islam, words of the angel Gabriel to Muhammad. And there's a chapter here, or a surah as it's called in Arabic, Surah 16, and it's entitled The Bee. And I think once I get through discussing a few other elements, you'll begin to see that this really is about the fallacy of the patriarchal system that has governed the world since the beginning of recorded history. But there is not one holy book I have read that does not repeat the same mistake that is exemplified here, subtly implied here, and explicitly mentioned in the Rig Veda, in the Upanishads, in the Mahabharata. And I haven't learned to read Chinese, Japanese, Korean, or any of the other Asian texts that might be available, but I suspect that the I Ching and the words of Confucius tend to follow the same line of reasoning. And what is that line of reasoning? Is that there is a master race upon the earth, and other races were meant to be subjugated and or enslaved by them. And this is explicitly in this book. So we'll stop right here, prepare the next section. I'm going to talk about Fibonacci.